The Galactic Council's Grand Hall, a marvel of alien architecture, was buzzing with tension. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy had gathered to discuss the escalating threat of the Korthian Empire. The Korthians, known for their ruthless expansion and military prowess, had been encroaching on neighboring territories, leaving devastation in their wake. Ambassador Zalar of the Vorth, a race renowned for their technological advancements, took the floor. "We must take a unified stand against the Korthians," Zalar urged, his voice echoing through the hall. "Their aggression cannot go unchecked." Despite the urgency in Zalar's tone, the other delegates seemed reluctant. The Trian delegate, a member of a race known for their cautious diplomacy, shook her head. "We cannot risk open conflict. Diplomacy is our best option," she argued. The debate grew heated, with representatives from the peaceful Lothari, the industrious Barathians, and many others voicing their concerns. The humans, represented by Claire Nakamura, listened intently. Humanity, still new to the interstellar scene, had often been dismissed as barbaric and impulsive. Suddenly, the Council's communication system crackled to life. A distress call from Lothar, the Lothari homeworld, played out in real time. Images of burning cities, desperate cries for help, and Korthian warships bombarding the planet filled the screens. The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sunk in. "Please," begged the Lothari ambassador, tears streaming down his face. "We need help. Our people are dying." A tense silence gripped the hall. One by one, the representatives looked away, unwilling to commit their forces. The Trian delegate remained resolute in her refusal, and the Barathians cited their unpreparedness for such a sudden conflict. Claire Nakamura stood, her face set in determination. "Humanity will answer the call," she declared, her voice cutting through the hesitation like a knife. "We cannot stand by and watch innocent lives perish." Her words hung in the air as she left the council chamber, contacting the fleet stationed nearby. Captain Marcus Steele, commanding the HSS Valiant, received her orders with grim resolve. "Prepare the fleet," he commanded his crew. "We're going to Lothar." As the human ships powered up and jumped to hyperspace, the Galactic Council watched in a mix of awe and shame. The so-called savages were the only ones willing to fight for the helpless. On the bridge of the HSS Valiant, Captain Marcus Steele stood tall, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen displaying the star-streaked vista of hyperspace. The crew around him worked with practiced efficiency, their faces set with determination. Humanity's response to the Lothari distress call was swift and unwavering. "Status report," Steele called out. "All ships are ready, Captain," Commander Elena Hayes replied. "We're on course for Lothar, ETA 12 hours. Steele nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Good. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is capable of." In the ship's hangar bay, pilots prepped their fighters, engineers ran final checks on the weapon systems, and Marines donned their combat gear. Among them was Major Alyssa Wren, a seasoned Marine commander known for her tactical brilliance and unyielding spirit. "We're going into the heart of the storm," Wren addressed her troops. "The Korthians think they can terrorize the galaxy without consequence. Today, we prove them wrong." Her words sparked a fire in the hearts of her soldiers. They were ready to fight, to defend those who couldn't defend themselves, and to show that humanity was more than the savage reputation that preceded them. As the fleet approached Lothar, the scale of the devastation became clear. The planet's surface was scarred with burning cities and wreckage. Korthian warships patrolled the skies, raining destruction on the defenseless populace below. "All ships, prepare for combat," Steele ordered. "Engage the enemy at will." The human fleet emerged from hyperspace with a ferocity that caught the Korthians off guard. Battleships unleashed volleys of laser fire, frigates darted through enemy lines with surgical precision, and fighters swarmed like angry hornets. The void of space lit up with explosions and energy blasts. Steele's voice rang through the comms. "Focus fire on their command ships. We need to break their coordination." Human ships targeted the Korthian command vessels, using advanced tactics and sheer firepower to punch through their defenses. The Korthians, used to facing fragmented and hesitant opposition, struggled to adapt to the relentless human assault. On the ground, Major Wren and her Marines executed a daring plan to infiltrate a Korthian command post. Using dropships, They landed amidst the chaos, fighting their way through enemy lines with a combination of brute force and cunning strategy. Wren led her team through the labyrinthine corridors of the Korthian installation, facing monstrous warriors in brutal close-quarters combat. Despite the overwhelming odds, they pushed forward, their resolve unshaken. In the command center, Wren accessed the Korthian battle network, downloading crucial intel on enemy positions and strategies. "We've got what we need," she reported, sending data to the fleet. Back in space, Steele received the intel and adjusted his strategy. "All units concentrate fire on these coordinates. Let's take them down." The human fleet's coordinated attack exploited the weaknesses revealed by Wren's intel. One by one, the Korthian ships fell, their formation crumbling under the relentless assault. The tide of battle turned, with human ships driving the invaders back. As the last Korthian vessel retreated, a cheer erupted among the human forces. The skies over Lothar cleared, revealing the battered but victorious human fleet. Captain Steele looked out at the aftermath, his heart swelling with pride. Humanity had faced the darkness and emerged as heroes. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. The moment the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace, the scale of the destruction on Lothar became tragically clear. The once vibrant cities were now engulfed in flames, and Korthian warships loomed ominously above, unleashing a relentless barrage on the helpless planet below. The odds were overwhelming, but retreat was not an option. "All ships engage at will," Captain Marcus Steele's command echoed through the comm channels, igniting a burst of activity across the fleet. Human ships surged forward, weapons blazing. The massive battleships led the charge, their laser cannons firing in synchronized bursts that ripped through Korthian shields. Frigates and corvettes darted between the larger vessels, launching missiles and torpedoes at vulnerable targets. The fighter squadrons, nimble and deadly, swarmed the enemy ships like a cloud of angry hornets. Steele's flagship, the HSS Valiant, spearheaded the assault, its guns blazing as it plowed through the Korthian lines. On the bridge, Steele coordinated the attack with practiced precision, directing fire where it was needed most, and calling out maneuvers to keep the fleet in formation. "Target their capital ships," Steele ordered. "We need to break their command structure." The Valiant's heavy cannons locked onto a Korthian command ship, unleashing a devastating barrage that shattered its shields and tore through its hull. Explosions rippled along the enemy vessel as it broke apart, sending debris tumbling into space. Despite their initial surprise, the Korthians quickly regrouped. Their warships formed defensive lines, returning fire with brutal efficiency. Human ships shuddered under the impact of enemy lasers and missiles, but they held their ground, fighting with a tenacity that belied their smaller numbers. "Incoming fighters," a sensor officer called out. Steele watched as swarms of Korthian fighters launched from their carriers, heading straight for the human fleet. "Deploy interceptors," he commanded. "Don't let them through." Human fighters engaged the Korthian swarms in a dazzling display of aerial combat. Lasers and projectiles crisscrossed the void, ships twisting and turning in a deadly dance. The sky above Lothar became a chaotic blur of motion and light, punctuated by explosions as ships from both sides were torn apart. On the ground, the situation was equally dire. Major Alyssa Wren and her team of Marines had landed in the midst of the chaos, tasked with a mission of critical importance, to disable a Korthian command post, coordinating the assault on the planet. "Move out," Wren barked, leading her squad through the war-torn streets. They moved with practiced precision, using the rubble and debris for cover as they advanced on their target. Korthian ground troops, monstrous creatures with lethal weaponry, defended the command post fiercely. Wren's Marines engaged them in brutal firefights, their superior tactics and training allowing them to push forward despite the overwhelming odds. "Frag out," a Marine shouted, hurling a grenade into a cluster of Korthian soldiers. The explosion cleared a path, and Wren's squad surged ahead, storming the entrance to the command post. Inside, the fighting intensified. The corridors were a maze of steel and concrete, filled with enemy soldiers and automated defenses. Wren led the charge, her rifle blazing as she took down enemies with precise shots. The Marines fought with unwavering determination, their mission clear in their minds. Wren spotted the control room at the end of a corridor. "Cover me," she ordered, sprinting towards the door. Her squad provided covering fire, holding off the Corthians long enough for her to reach the control panel. "Got it," Wren announced, hacking into the system. Within moments, she had disabled the command post's communications, severing the link between the ground forces and their fleet. She also downloaded crucial intel on Corthian positions and strategies. "We need to get this data to Steele," Wren said, relaying the information to the Valiant. "This will give us the edge we need." On the bridge of the HSS Valiant, Captain Marcus Steele analyzed the data sent by Wren. His eyes flickered over the schematics and troop movements. "This is it," he muttered. "This is our chance to turn the tide." Steele activated the fleet-wide comm channel. "All ships, adjust your vectors to these coordinates. Focus fire on their flagship. We're going to hit them where it hurts." The human fleet shifted, converging on the coordinates Steele had designated. The Corthian flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, became the focal point of the assault. Human ships poured their firepower into the enemy vessel, concentrating their attacks on its weak points. On the ground, Wren and her team continued their fight. With the command post disabled, the Corthian ground forces were in disarray. Wren's squad pushed forward, taking advantage of the confusion to secure key positions and eliminate enemy resistance. "Major, we've got reinforcements incoming," a Marine reported, pointing to the sky where dropships descended, bringing additional troops and supplies. Wren nodded. "Good, let's finish this." The Marines regrouped, their ranks bolstered by the reinforcements. They launched a coordinated assault on the remaining Corthian positions, driving the enemy back with relentless determination. The streets of Lothar echoed with the sounds of battle, but the tide was clearly turning in favor of the humans. Above, the Valiant and its sister ships hammered the Corthian flagship. Shields flickered and failed, armor plating buckled and shattered. The Corthian ship returned fire with everything it had, but the human fleet pressed the attack, refusing to relent. "She's breaking apart," a sensor officer shouted. On the view screen, the Corthian flagship erupted in a series of explosions, its massive frame splitting and disintegrating under the onslaught. Cheers erupted throughout the human fleet as the flagship's destruction signaled a decisive blow to the Corthian forces. With their command ship gone, the remaining Corthian vessels faltered. Human ships seized the opportunity, pressing their advantage and driving the enemy into a full retreat. The skies above Lothar cleared as the Corthians withdrew, leaving behind a battered but victorious human fleet. Steele let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "We did it," he said softly, his voice filled with a mix of relief and pride. "We held the line." On the surface, Wren's team secured the last of the Corthian strongholds. The Lothari, emerging from their shelters, greeted their saviors with tears of gratitude and relief. Wren stood tall, her armor scorched and battered, but her spirit unbroken. As the dust settled and the human fleet regrouped, a sense of triumph and unity spread among the defenders. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, proving that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The battle for Lothar was over, but the war against the Corthians was far from finished. Steele and Wren knew that their victory had bought them time, but the fight for the galaxy's future was only beginning. They would need to remain vigilant, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their resolve to protect and defend. Using the crucial intel captured by Major Alyssa Wren, Captain Marcus Steele devised a bold and risky strategy to exploit a critical weakness in the Corthian formation. The information detailed vulnerabilities in the enemy's defensive grid, particularly around their flagship's core reactors. "All ships, concentrate your fire on these coordinates," Steele commanded, transmitting the specific weak points to the fleet. "We need to create a breach in their defenses." The human fleet, battered but resolute, shifted its focus. The coordinated assault began with precision strikes from the battleships, their heavy cannons targeting the reactor zones with relentless accuracy. Frigates and corvettes followed, launching torpedoes that zeroed in on the compromised sections of the Corthian flagship. The Corthians, sensing the impending threat, redoubled their efforts to protect their flagship. They threw waves of fighters and bombers at the human ships, but the humans were prepared. Fighter squadrons intercepted the enemy crafts, engaging them in a furious dogfight that lit up the space around Lothar. Steele's voice rang out across the comms, steady and encouraging. "We're almost there. Keep up the pressure." The Valiant's cannons fired in a continuous barrage, each shot finding its mark with devastating effect. The Korthian flagship's shields flickered and failed, its hull buckling under the onslaught. An enormous explosion tore through the ship as one of the reactors went critical, triggering a chain reaction. "Target the core! This is our chance!" Steele ordered, his eyes locked on the unfolding chaos. With a final, concentrated push, the human fleet unleashed everything they had. The flagship's core erupted in a blinding explosion, sending shockwaves through the Korthian fleet. The enemy ships, now leaderless and disorganized, began to falter. "Pull back and regroup," the remaining Korthian commanders ordered, but it was too late. The human forces pressed their advantage, systematically dismantling the Korthian defenses. As the last Korthian ships fled, the sky above Lothar cleared, revealing a victorious but exhausted human fleet. The battle was won, and the Korthian threat over Lothar had been decisively repelled. On the surface, Major Wren's team continued their cleanup operations, securing the remaining Korthian positions. The Lothari emerged from their shelters, cautiously stepping into the light. The sight of the human troops, standing as protectors and saviors, filled them with gratitude and hope. Captain Steele opened a channel to the surface. "Major Wren, status report." "Ground secured, Captain," Wren replied, her voice tired but triumphant. "The Lothari are safe. Mission accomplished." Steele allowed himself a rare smile. "Good work, Major. We'll begin relief operations immediately." The aftermath of the battle for Lothar was a time of reflection and renewal. Human and Lothari forces worked side by side to restore what had been lost. The human fleet, now hailed as heroes, continued to patrol the skies, ensuring no further Korthian incursions would threaten the recovering planet. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nothar Prime, Ambassador Claire Nakamura faced a transformed assembly. The once reluctant representatives now listened with a mix of respect and curiosity. Nakamura had requested this emergency session to address the Council, knowing that humanity's actions had spoken louder than any speech she could give. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Council," Nakamura began, her voice firm and clear. "The events on Lothar have shown us all the true nature of this conflict. Humanity did not stand by and watch. We acted because it was the right thing to do, not for glory or conquest, but to protect the innocent." The room was silent, the weight of her words settling over the delegates. The Lothari ambassador, his eyes still reflecting the trauma of his people's suffering, stood to speak. "The Lothari owe their lives to the humans. Their bravery and sacrifice have given us a chance to rebuild. We support any motion that recognizes their efforts and calls for greater unity." Nakamura nodded appreciatively. "Thank you. But let this be a lesson to all of us. We must stand together against the Korthian threat. Only through unity can we hope to secure lasting peace." As debates resumed, it was clear that the old prejudices were beginning to crack. The Lothari's endorsement carried significant weight, swaying many undecided representatives. The Vorth and Trian, previously skeptical of human motives, now saw the value of their involvement. Back on Lothar, Captain Steele coordinated with Lothari leaders to establish humanitarian aid and defense measures. Engineers from both races worked to rebuild infrastructure, while human medical teams tended to the wounded. Major Wren, now a hero among the Lothari, spent her days overseeing the reconstruction efforts. She was approached by a group of Lothari children one morning, their eyes wide with awe. "Are you the one who fought the Korthians?" one of them asked. Wren smiled, kneeling to their level. "I did, but I wasn't alone. Many brave people fought to keep you safe." The children's admiration was palpable, a reminder of why they fought. The battle had changed not only the fate of Lothar, but also the perception of humanity in the galaxy. As weeks turned into months, the Galactic Council moved towards forming a unified defense pact. The proposed pact aimed to pool resources and coordinate military efforts against the Korthians, ensuring that no single race would stand alone in the face of such a formidable threat. Nakamura played a pivotal role in these negotiations. Her tireless efforts and unwavering conviction gradually bringing the disparate races together. "We must look beyond our differences," she urged. "The Korthians will exploit any division among us. Together, we are stronger." The turning point came when the Vorth representative, previously a staunch critic of humanity, stood in support of the pact. "Humanity has proven its worth," he acknowledged. "Their actions on Lothar have demonstrated that they are not the savages we once thought. We must embrace this new alliance." The Galactic Council voted overwhelmingly in favor of the Defense Pact, marking the beginning of a new era of cooperation and mutual support. The Lothari, Vorth, Trian, and other races pledged their fleets and resources, preparing for the next inevitable clash with the Korthians. On Lothar, the rebuilding continued, but the mood was hopeful. The planet, once on the brink of annihilation, now stood as a symbol of resilience and unity. Humanity's role in its salvation had sparked a new chapter in galactic history, one where old prejudices were set aside, and the future was shaped by collaboration and trust. Despite the victory at Lothar, the Korthians remained a relentless threat. Their raids on human colonies intensified, and the humans found themselves stretched thin. On the colony of New Eden, a lush world known for its agricultural bounty, the Korthians launched a sudden and brutal assault. Governor Jacob Hall, a seasoned leader with a military background, quickly mobilized the colony's defenses. "All able-bodied citizens, report to your designated shelters and armories." Hall's voice echoed through the colony's communication network. "We will not let the Korthians take our home." The colony's militia, composed of farmers, engineers, and former soldiers, scrambled to their posts. They fortified key positions, set up barricades, and prepared for the worst. The Korthian forces descended with ruthless efficiency, their warships deploying ground troops that swarmed the colony's outskirts. In the main square, Hall addressed the militia. "We've trained for this day. Remember, we're fighting for our families, our homes, and our future. Stand your ground and show them that New Eden will not fall." The Korthians hit hard and fast, their superior technology and numbers initially overwhelming the colonists. But the humans fought back with fierce determination. Makeshift artillery and improvised explosives turned the colony's fields into deadly traps for the invaders. Snipers took positions in the tall buildings, picking off Korthian soldiers with precision shots. As the battle raged on, Hall received a transmission from Captain Marcus Steele. "Governor Hall, we're dispatching reinforcements, but it'll take time for them to reach you. Hold out as long as you can." "We'll hold," Hall replied grimly. "Just get here soon." Amidst the chaos, a group of children and elderly citizens were trapped in a school building on the edge of the colony. Hall led a daring rescue mission, his team braving enemy fire to reach the besieged building. They fought their way through, using smoke grenades and cover fire to create a path to safety. "Move, move, move," Hall shouted, helping the civilians through the breach. Despite heavy losses, they managed to evacuate the school, bringing the vulnerable to the relative safety of the central bunker. The battle for New Eden stretched into a grueling standoff. The colonists, inspired by Hall's leadership and their own resolve, held their ground against the seemingly endless waves of Korthian attackers. Every inch of ground was contested fiercely, with neither side willing to yield. Finally, the sky above New Eden filled with the sight of incoming human ships. Steele's reinforcements arrived, their arrival marked by a barrage of laser fire and missile strikes that tore through the Korthian ranks. The human fleet descended like avenging angels, breaking the enemy's siege and forcing a retreat. Steele landed on the surface amidst the cheers of the surviving colonists. "You did well, Governor Hall. You held the line." Hall, exhausted but unbroken, nodded. "We did what we had to. New Eden stands." The victory, hard-won and bloody, underscored the resilience of humanity. Despite the relentless Korthian assaults, the human spirit remained unbroken, and their colonies stood defiant against the tide of war. The increasing Korthian threat forced Ambassador Claire Nakamura to propose a daring and unprecedented plan to the Galactic Council, a unified defense pact. The proposal was met with a mixture of skepticism and cautious interest. Nakamura stood before the council, her presence commanding and resolute. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Korthian Empire will not stop with Lothar or New Eden. They seek to dominate us all. We must put aside our differences and unite if we are to stand a chance. The Vorth representative, who had previously opposed humanity's involvement, raised an eyebrow. And why should we trust humanity to lead such an initiative? Your reputation as warriors precedes you, but so does your impulsiveness. Nakamura held his gaze. Because we have proven that we will fight for more than just ourselves. The humans of New Eden fought to the last man to protect their home, just as we fought to save Lothar. We stand ready to do the same for any of you. Unity is our only hope. The Lothari ambassador, still bearing the emotional scars of his world's devastation, spoke up. The humans saved us when no one else would. We owe them our lives. I support this pact. This endorsement carried significant weight, and others began to murmur their agreement. The Trian delegate, known for their cautious diplomacy, nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps it is time we embraced a new era of cooperation. Nakamura seized the moment. We propose a mutual defense agreement, pooling our resources and coordinating our military efforts. Together, we can share intelligence, bolster each other's defenses, and present a united front against the Korthian threat. The debates were intense, with concerns about sovereignty and trust at the forefront. However, the evidence of humanity's recent sacrifices and victories gradually swayed the council. The turning point came when the Vorth representative, after much deliberation, stood in support of the pact. Humanity has earned its place among us, he admitted. Their actions speak louder than words. I vote in favor of this defense pact. One by one, the delegates voiced their agreement. The Galactic Council, once fragmented and hesitant, now moved towards a historic decision. The defense pact was ratified, marking the beginning of a new era of unity and mutual support. With the pact in place, preparations for a coordinated defense began immediately. Joint training exercises were conducted, fleets were integrated, and intelligence sharing protocols were established. The galaxy, long divided by mistrust and isolation, began to coalesce into a formidable alliance. Back on New Eden, Steele and Hall oversaw the rebuilding efforts, knowing that their victory had inspired a broader change. The galaxy is starting to come together, Steele remarked. We have a chance now, a real chance to push back the Korthians. Hall nodded, looking at the thriving colony around them. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about securing a future for all of us. The first test of the newly formed Galactic Defense Pact came swiftly. Andromeda Station, a crucial hub for hyperspace travel and trade, found itself under direct assault from a massive Korthian fleet. The station's defenses, formidable yet not invincible, braced for the onslaught. Admiral Irina Voss of the Vorth, a strategic genius known for her calm under pressure, took command of the station's defense. All hands, prepare for battle, she ordered, her voice steady and confident. We hold this station at all costs. Captain Marcus Steele's fleet arrived shortly after, adding their strength to the beleaguered defenders. Admiral Voss, we're here to assist, Steele's voice crackled over the comms. Glad to have you, Captain, Voss replied. We need to coordinate our efforts to withstand their attack. The Korthian fleet launched a relentless assault, their warships pounding Andromeda Station's shields with unceasing ferocity. Human and Vorth ships formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons blazing as they intercepted enemy fighters and bombers. The void around the station turned into a chaotic battlefield, filled with the light of explosions and the streaks of laser fire. Steele directed his forces with precision, focusing on taking out the Korthian capital ships that spearheaded the attack. Target their flagships, he commanded. If we can cripple their command structure, we might turn the tide. Voss, recognizing the strategic value of Steele's plan, coordinated her forces to support the human ships. Vorth cruisers provided covering fire, their advanced weaponry tearing through Korthian armor. The combined might of the Allied fleet began to make a dent in the Korthian offensive. Despite their efforts, the Korthians managed to breach the station's outer defenses. Boarding parties infiltrated the station, leading to fierce close-quarters combat in the corridors and control rooms. Admiral Voss organized a rapid response, deploying security teams to repel the invaders. On board the Valiant, Steele received an urgent call from the station. We've got Korthian boarding parties inside the station, Voss reported. We need immediate support. Understood, Admiral, Steele replied. We'll deploy Marines to assist in repelling them. Major Alyssa Wren led the boarding action, her Marines moving swiftly through the station's labyrinthine halls. The fighting was intense, with Korthian soldiers using their superior strength and technology to gain an edge. However, the Marines' training and resolve proved superior. Wren's tactical acumen and the Marines' unwavering determination slowly turned the tide in their favor. "We're securing the main control room," Wren reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Hold the line." As the battle raged on both in space and within the station, a daring plan formed. Steele proposed a hyperspace jump within the system to flank the Korthian fleet, a risky maneuver that could potentially break the siege. "Admiral Voss, we'll execute a micro-jump to their rear flank," Steele suggested. "It might give us the advantage we need." Voss considered the plan for a moment before nodding. "Do it, Captain. We'll cover your approach." The Valiant and several accompanying ships initiated the jump, emerging behind the Korthian fleet. The sudden appearance of the human ships caused momentary confusion among the Korthians, which Steele exploited to full effect. The Allied ships unleashed a devastating barrage, catching the Korthians off guard and causing chaos in their ranks. With the Korthian fleet in disarray, the defenders of Andromeda Station pressed their advantage. The combined firepower of the human and Vorth ships tore through the remaining Korthian vessels, forcing them into a hasty retreat. As the last of the Korthian ships fled, a cheer went up among the defenders. Andromeda Station was saved, its critical role in the galactic infrastructure preserved. Steele contacted Voss, a sense of relief in his voice. "We did it, Admiral. The station is secure." "Indeed, Captain," Voss replied, a rare smile crossing her face. "Your plan was daring, but it paid off. Well done." The victory at Andromeda Station was a testament to the strength of the new alliance. The successful defense not only safeguarded a vital asset, but also reinforced the bonds between the Allied races, showing that unity could indeed prevail against the Korthian threat. Victory at Andromeda Station brought a moment of respite, but it also unveiled a darker undercurrent. Saboteurs within the Alliance had been quietly working against their own forces, undermining critical defenses and leaking strategic information to the Korthians. The revelation came to light during a routine inspection when security officers discovered unauthorized access logs and tampered systems. Admiral Irina Voss convened an emergency meeting aboard the Valiant. Captain Marcus Steele, Ambassador Claire Nakamura, and several high-ranking officials from the Allied races attended. The atmosphere was tense, suspicion and anger simmering beneath the surface. "We have traitors in our midst," Voss began, her voice cold and controlled. "These saboteurs have endangered us all. We must root them out and ensure our security." Nakamura, her expression grim, added, "We need a thorough investigation. Trust is the foundation of our alliance, and we cannot afford to let it crumble." A dedicated task force was assembled, comprising intelligence officers and security experts from all member races. They began a meticulous investigation, tracing the sabotage to its source. The search led them to several high-ranking officials within the Galactic Council, individuals who had secretly aligned themselves with the Korthians, motivated by promises of power and influence. One of the key suspects was a Vorth intelligence officer, Commander Kaler, whose access to sensitive information made him a prime target for the investigation. Confronted with the evidence, Kaler initially denied any wrongdoing, but under intense scrutiny, he broke down and revealed the extent of the conspiracy. "The Korthians promised us dominance," Kaler confessed. "They said if we helped them, they would spare our worlds and make us rulers of the galaxy." The revelations were shocking, shaking the foundations of the alliance. Trust had been breached, and the enemy had nearly succeeded in tearing them apart from within. Steele, enraged by the betrayal, addressed the council. "We must ensure this never happens again. We need stricter security protocols and a unified intelligence network to detect and prevent such treachery." Nakamura nodded. "Agreed. We must also strengthen our resolve. The Korthians aim to divide us, but we must stand united. These traitors will be brought to justice, and their actions will only make us stronger." The task force worked tirelessly to identify and apprehend all those involved in the conspiracy. Trials were conducted swiftly, and the guilty were punished, their actions serving as a stark reminder of the cost of betrayal. With the traitors exposed, the Alliance took steps to rebuild trust and fortify their defenses. New security measures were implemented, and a centralized intelligence network was established to ensure better coordination and protection against internal threats. Despite the betrayal, the unity of the Alliance emerged stronger. The leaders of the allied races reaffirmed their commitment to the pact, determined to prevent any future attempts to undermine their efforts. As the Alliance regrouped and prepared for the next phase of the war against the Corthians, there was a renewed sense of purpose. The betrayal had tested their resolve, but it had also proven their resilience. The path ahead would be difficult, but united, they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Captain Steele, reflecting on the events, knew that the real battle was not just against the Corthians, but against the fear and mistrust that threatened to divide them. With the traitors rooted out and the Alliance stronger than ever, he felt a renewed sense of hope. "We've faced darkness within and without," Steele said to Nakamura as they stood on the bridge of the Valiant, gazing at the stars. "But as long as we stand together, we can overcome anything." Nakamura smiled, her eyes filled with determination. "The galaxy is watching us, Captain. Let's show them the power of unity." With the traitors within the Alliance exposed and dealt with, the time had come for a decisive strike against the Corthian Empire. The Alliance's combined fleet, now more cohesive and determined than ever, gathered at the edge of Corthian space, ready for the ultimate confrontation. The target was the Corthian homeworld, a fortress planet heavily guarded, and the seat of their emperor. Captain Marcus Steele and Admiral Irina Voss stood on the bridge of the HSS Valiant, overlooking the assembled armada. Ships from every member race of the Alliance were represented, their diverse designs and technologies forming a formidable and united front. "All ships, prepare for the jump to Corthian space," Steele ordered, his voice calm but filled with resolve. "This is it. We hit them hard, and we hit them fast." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, emerging on the other side into a scene of chaos and beauty. The Corthian homeworld, surrounded by a vast array of defense platforms and warships, loomed ahead. The Corthians had anticipated an attack, and their fleet was already mobilized. "All units engage," Steele commanded, and the space around the Corthian homeworld erupted into a massive battle. The Allied fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Human battleships led the charge, their powerful cannons firing in synchronized volleys. Vorth cruisers provided covering fire while Trion interceptors darted through the enemy lines, taking out key targets with pinpoint precision. The Corthians responded with their usual ferocity, their ships forming defensive lines and returning fire with devastating power. The void was filled with explosions, debris, and the bright streaks of laser fire. The battle was chaotic and brutal, with losses mounting on both sides. Amidst the chaos, Steele and Voss coordinated their forces with remarkable precision. "Focus on their command ships," Voss instructed. "If we can decapitate their leadership, we can break their resistance." Steele nodded. "Agreed. All units, target the Corthian command vessels. Let's end this." Human and Vorth ships concentrated their firepower on the Corthian command ships, breaking through their shields and armor. One by one, the enemy command vessels were destroyed, their destruction causing confusion and disarray within the Corthian ranks. Meanwhile, Major Alyssa Wren and her Marines were deployed on a daring mission to infiltrate the Corthian capital. Using cloaked dropships, they landed undetected and moved through the city, their objective, to capture or eliminate the Corthian Emperor. "Stay sharp," Wren whispered to her team as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Corthian palace. "We only get one shot at this." The Corthian capital was a maze of ornate halls and fortified chambers. Wren's team encountered fierce resistance from elite Corthian guards, but their training and determination saw them through. They fought with a combination of stealth and brute force, overcoming every obstacle in their path. Finally, they reached the throne room, where the Corthian Emperor awaited, surrounded by his most loyal warriors. The Emperor, a towering figure clad in imposing armor, stood with a calm, menacing presence. "Humans," he sneered. You dare to challenge the might of the Korthian Empire? Ren stepped forward, her rifle aimed steadily at the Emperor. Your reign of terror ends today. A fierce battle ensued in the throne room, Ren and her Marines clashing with the Emperor's guards. The fight was intense and brutal, with both sides sustaining heavy casualties. Ren's tactical brilliance and the Marines' unyielding spirit turned the tide. With a final decisive blow, Ren struck down the Emperor, ending his tyrannical rule. Objective complete, Ren reported, her voice steady despite the exhaustion. The Emperor is down. The news of the Emperor's fall spread quickly, demoralizing the Korthian forces. The Allied fleet, seeing their opportunity, pressed their advantage. The Korthian defenses crumbled, and the remaining enemy ships either surrendered or fled. As the battle drew to a close, the Allied fleet secured the Korthian homeworld. The war, long and devastating, was finally over. The galaxy had been freed from the shadow of the Korthian Empire. With the Korthian Empire defeated, the galaxy faced the daunting task of rebuilding. The Allied races, having fought and bled together, now turned their efforts towards peace and recovery. The Galactic Council reconvened, this time with a renewed sense of purpose and unity. Ambassador Claire Nakamura stood before the Council, her presence commanding and filled with hope. The war has shown us the strength of unity. We have faced the greatest threat our galaxy has ever known and emerged victorious. Now we must ensure that the peace we have fought for endures. The Council, once divided by mistrust and prejudice, now stood united. Representatives from the Lothari, Vorth, Tryon, and many others pledged their commitment to a new galactic charter, one that emphasized mutual defense, cooperation, and shared prosperity. Nakamura continued, "We propose the formation of a permanent galactic defense force, a united military presence that will protect all member worlds and prevent future threats. Let us learn from the past and build a future where all races stand together as equals." The proposal was met with overwhelming support. The creation of the Galactic Defense Force marked the beginning of a new era, one where old animosities were set aside in favor of a collective security and progress. Back on the Korthian homeworld, efforts to restore order and help the planet recover began in earnest. Human and allied forces worked to dismantle the remnants of the Korthian military machine, disarming and integrating their soldiers into peaceful roles. Human engineers and scientists collaborated with their counterparts from other races to repair the war-torn infrastructure and heal the scars of conflict. Captain Marcus Steele and Admiral Irina Voss were recognized as heroes, their leadership pivotal in achieving victory. Major Alyssa Wren and her Marines were celebrated for their bravery and tactical brilliance, their mission to take down the Korthian Emperor becoming the stuff of legend. Steele, now a respected figure across the galaxy, stood on the observation deck of the Valiant, gazing at the stars. The weight of the war's cost bore heavily on him, but so did the pride of their accomplishments. "We've come a long way," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Admiral Voss joined him, her demeanor as composed as ever. "Indeed we have. The galaxy is a different place now, thanks to our efforts." Steele nodded. "And we have a chance to make it even better. The Galactic Defense Force, the new charter. This is our opportunity to ensure lasting peace." Voss placed a hand on his shoulder. "We will make it happen, Captain. Together." On the ground, Wren oversaw the integration efforts, ensuring that the Korthian soldiers found their place in the new order. "It's a long road ahead," she told one of her lieutenants, "but it's a road worth taking. We're building something better for everyone." As the weeks turned into months, the galaxy began to heal. The newly formed Galactic Defense Force conducted joint training exercises, their presence a symbol of unity and strength. Trade and diplomacy flourished, with former enemies becoming allies and partners in rebuilding efforts. The Galactic Council, now more inclusive and cooperative than ever, worked tirelessly to address the needs of all member worlds. Initiatives for economic development, environmental preservation, and cultural exchange were launched, fostering a sense of shared destiny among the diverse races. Ambassador Nakamura, reflecting on the journey, knew that the true test of their unity was yet to come. But she also knew that they had laid a strong foundation one built on trust, sacrifice, and a common vision for the future. "We've shown what we can achieve when we stand together," Nakamura said during a council session. "Let us continue to build on this unity and ensure that the horrors of the past are never repeated."